What is going on YouTube? Lamont at large. Today we are in Dayton, Ohio. We're going to talk about the very curious death of Kelly D. Wilson. If anybody lived in Dayton, Ohio back in 2000, and like a lot of us did back in those days, we would listen to the radio on our way home from work, on our way to work, school. It was a constant. Not like how it is now, but being a radio DJ personality back in the days before the advent of the internet, you were almost looked upon as kind of like a celebrity, if you will. And for one, Kelly D. Wilson, she was a local celebrity here in Dayton, Ohio. She went by the on-air personality name of Nikki Brooks. She was a DJ that worked the 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift at WROU. They were pretty much like one of those like pop crossover R&B stations, and at the time she had the #1 show in the entire city. She was only working at the station for about a year. They had plucked her from another station down in Cincinnati, so her family was sad to see her go, but she had a better opportunity to do something to advance in her career, and that opportunity was in Dayton, Ohio. So on or around March 27th of 2000, Kelly was scheduled to come into work. I think on that day she might have been working a slightly later schedule than her normal shift. Don't quote me on that, but I do know that she was supposed to be in the studio to prepare for her show. Now normally she would come in about an hour earlier just to get everything ready to go before she would go live on the air. I think on that night it was a countdown show, so they would play like the top 8 hits of the week, or maybe people would call it in or go online and vote it in or what have you. So she was supposed to be there an hour before, like I just said, and she hadn't shown up. Now it's 30 minutes before the start of the show. It's 20 minutes before the start of the show. So now they're getting a little bit worried. Now they're probably thinking, all right, maybe she is stuck in traffic. Maybe she's sick. Who knows? So when the time comes that she's supposed to be on air, I guess they just kind of have the person who's already working, I guess they just tell them, hey, you're gonna have to cover her shift, something's going on. Now, just by dumb luck, in this very apartment complex where I'm walking in, one of either the program directors or the managers of the station, he happened to live in this same apartment complex that she did. So he said, something's not right, I'm gonna go check it out, I'll be right back. So he goes to the apartment complex, and he goes up to her door and it knocks, and there's no answer. He's ringing her landline. At the time, I'm not sure if she has a cell phone or not. Not everybody had a cell phone back in 2000, but her landline is not being answered. So he gets really, really worried. So he contacts the office and he says, hey, I work for the radio station and Kelly hasn't shown up for work. I'm really worried. So they call the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. So the sheriff's office, they come to this apartment complex to do a welfare check. So they knock on the door and there's still no answer. So they have the manager open up the door. So the manager opens up the door and they go into the living room. Now, their first impression when they walk inside is that it doesn't look like the apartment has been ransacked, but it looks like it's in disarray. It looks like somebody was trying to straighten stuff up really quickly and they just were dropping stuff all over the place. And also there was a bunch of different cleaning products all around the area of the apartment. So when deputies arrive into the bedroom, they go into the bathroom and they find Kelly in a what they called an unnatural position, slumped over the bathtub, dead. She had only been wearing a robe. She had her bra on, but she was totally nude from the waist down. Okay, so this is the part of the story that when I tell you what took place, I think we're all gonna kind of figure out what happened here. So the day before Kelly was found dead, she had went to a party, a barbecue, a picnic, some kind of a get-together. It was thrown by one of her co-workers. I don't know if it was another on-air personality, but it was, some people call it a shindig, whatever. So there's X amount of people at this place, and Kelly comes with two guys. Don't know the names of these guys, but one of the guys she's been dating maybe a couple months. I don't know if it's considered a serious relationship or they're just messing around or they're just dating, whatever you want to call it. One of the eyewitnesses at this party, when they see Kelly come in, they can tell that it looks like she has been drinking before she arrived. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if there's a party, I like to get a little bit, just to loosen up the nerves if I'm around a bunch of people I don't know. Maybe take a shot or something like that in the car just to kind of, calm the nerves or whatever. So she's in here now, and everything is okay. She's drinking at the party, but she's drinking a little bit more. She's drinking a little bit more. And it's clear to some people at the party, I guess you would say that she was intoxicated. Maybe she had a little bit too much to drink. Maybe it was a drink that was mixed with juice, and maybe she didn't know how much was in the drink. So her boyfriend, or the guy that she was dating, he decides to take her back to her apartment, and she goes with them along with the guy's friend. They go to the apartment, then they leave the apartment, and now there's some kind of a get-together after the barbecue. So there's these two popular clubs at the time in Dayton. So I want to say they might be kind of right next to each other. So everyone meets up at these bars or clubs or whatever they are, and everyone's doing what they do when they meet up, and it's just having fun or what have you. So the woman that threw the party, she calls over one of the guys, I guess the boyfriend or whatever, and she tells him, she says, hey, why don't you have Kelly come over? And he says, nah, she's kind of been drinking a lot today, and I don't think she feels too good. And she says, no, come on, I'm gonna call her. So she calls Kelly. Kelly answers the phone. Now it's around 11 p.m. or so. So she says that Kelly told her on the phone, I want to come down. Now, this happened almost 25 years ago. Can't really say exactly what she said. It seemed like she wanted to come down, but also she had been kind of drinking a lot. So take that as you will. She ends up not coming down. And then we fast forward to the day where they find her body. Now, the autopsy, this is the part I don't understand. The autopsy determines that Kelly died via manual asphyxiation, like she had been choked. They said there was bruising around her neck and bruising around her mouth, and that she died from that, and there was also an obstruction in her airway. They didn't say what that obstruction was. I don't know if they found it or what, but that's basically what the autopsy said. So the coroner, he determines that this is a homicide. Now, From what family said, the boyfriend or the friend of Kelly was upset to learn about her death. Whoever was with Kelly that evening, when they left her apartment, they took her keys with them. There was no evidence of a break-in. There was nothing missing. This wasn't a robbery. Whoever she was with, she knew them and knew them enough where she trusted them to be in such a vulnerable state, especially when you're a woman. And it's just one of those really curious stories, because when I'm reading it, I'm saying, is this really a murder? Now, I'm not a expert. I don't want anybody to ever think I'm an expert. I don't know anything. I know as much as you do. I just happen to do this for a living, so I kind of read these stories more than some. But I'm reading the autopsy report, and I don't get the part where, like, I'm reading it where I'm like, okay, this was a definite homicide. You know, for all I know, they could have just, I don't know, had rough sex. I'm going to just go out and say it. Okay, I'm not saying that's what happened, but there was no signs of a sex assault. And the guy who was dating her did say that they did have sex, which would have amounted to about 24 hours before they put the time of death on the autopsy report. I mean, listen, I don't know. Could it have happened? Possibly. I hate to interject my personal opinion in this case. And when I read it, I wasn't going to do the story because I said to myself, this wasn't a homicide in the way where a violent homicidal maniac goes out and kidnaps a young girl and kills her. I think this was whoever this guy that was dating her, he knows exactly what happened. He knows exactly what happened. He either lawyered up, he ain't talking, his friend ain't talking, they ain't saying anything. For all I know, she drank too much, and maybe he put her in the bathtub so when she threw up, it would go into the bathtub. Another thing, this is the part where maybe it was a homicide. So check this out. They said as they were investigating the apartment and they were looking around, they said that there was fecal matter that was on the bed and on Kelly in the bathroom. Now, some of us, if you don't know, when we die, we lose our bowels. So she could have died on the bed, and then maybe whoever was there, not knowing what was going on, like she would have wake up, maybe they panicked, drug her to the bathroom, put her over to the bathtub to make sure she threw. Now it's getting a little bit, okay, was this a homicide? You know, I just, the way I read it, I do feel this. I do feel that whoever was there and left her like that is very negligent in her death. I will say that. Homicide, when I think of homicide, I think of murder, I think of stabbing, I think of shooting, killing. I'm not thinking like that in this case. So when they say homicide, maybe it's a different degree. I have no idea. This was a story that I read it and I said, nah, I don't want to do it. And then as I looked at it, I said, well, maybe I could kind of talk to myself as I'm talking to you guys, and we can play armchair detective and can figure out what the hell happened here. I have no idea. I had visited Kelly's grave at the cemetery the other day, which was really weird because I passed a grave of another person who I happened to have written down in my notebook for a possible story for a future video. When I seen the grave, I said I know that name, and then it had an insignia. I don't want to get into detail, but I might be covering that story later on down the road. But nonetheless, Montgomery County Sheriffs, they're determining that this is a homicide. I ain't no expert. I ain't nobody to disagree with trained law enforcement and medical personnel. I just am saying that ultimately, when I think of homicide, like I said, we all think about murder. To say that somebody meant to kill her, I don't know. I feel, I'm gonna have my own, opinion about this. I don't know. Regardless of how I feel, this poor young lady lost her life in a very tragic way. And I do hope that the family can get some kind of answers. And I'll just say this, the answers are going to come from that boyfriend and the friend. They know what happened. I'm not saying that they murdered her. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying those are the only two guys. Those are the only two guys that I believe knows exactly what took place. And her keys to her apartment were not found. And she had the lock system on her door was to where you could not lock it you couldn't lock it, leave the keys in there, and then just shut the door. I guess there was no doorknob lock. I guess it was only a deadbolt. I have no idea. Now I'm just rambling. But nonetheless, rest in peace to Kelly D. Wilson, and hopefully we'll put a number up on the screen. Maybe somebody, who knows? I could be completely wrong, and this was a full-on homicide. I just didn't get that vibe. Nonetheless, if anybody has any information on the unsolved homicide of Kelly D. Wilson, contact the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and hopefully we'll get some answers to this case and many of the other cases out there that I read about and cover. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I'm hitting the road. Sun's out. See you on the next vlog. Peace out.